Great. So we're going to look at more publicity photos from the fair. And as I said, I keep buying batches of these and they stack up and I scan them. There's some interesting ones in here of things that were never built, which I got a real kick out of. And we're also going to take a look at speaking of things that were never built, we're going to take a look at the grandiose plans of the World of Food Pavilion, which got partly built and then totally torn down. So let me go to share screen here. And we have no sound or anything, so we can make it easy. So again, these things kind of hop over the place, no particular order. We will be going from 64 to 65 to 61 to 63 all over the place. But most of these pavilions you probably know already. Hawaii, out there on the shores of Meadow Lake. This was one of the few state pavilions that actually charged an admission fee. But in exchange for it, you got to wear a really cool plastic lei around your neck, and they came all of two exciting colors, so you could get them walk around. And inside they had, of course, the usual stuff, come and see movies and all that about the state. But they had in the background this little dome area sticking out. They had a dinner show, the guys with flames and hula dances and all the rest of it. So the thing that was a real kick when talking to my mother was the palm trees, because she had told me when she went to the 39 fair, they had brought the palm trees into the state of Florida. And it was I think she was about 9 years old. She said the kids were just absolutely astonished to see a palm tree. I mean, that was something growing up in Brooklyn. You didn't have any palm trees. We take them for granted out here in California, but she said, she remembered, this and that about the fair, but just the awe of seeing a palm tree was so unique at that point in time. So again, the little blurb on the background, miniature ocean. I don't particularly remember that, but it was a neat pavilion. I think it was only 10 cents to get in, so they didn't make a lot of money on it. But it was kind of unique that most of the others wanted you to come in for free. Most of these pictures are 8 by 10. Some of them will come up to a different size. I don't remember what this one was offhand, but this is the International Plaza area, which looks much more interesting here than it did in real life. I don't remember any trees in the real International Plaza, so a little bit of artistic liberty. But this was mostly shops. If you were, say, from Pakistan, and you wanted to sell Pakistani goods, you could go buy a shop, a storefront here, and they had all sorts of interesting foods here, and that it did make it the fun part of the fair to go to because there were so many different countries and snack bars, and that was better in 64. As you got into later in 64 and then into 65, a lot of these international places all started selling Belgian waffles. So it was just kind of weird to go to a Caribbean place and they had, jerk beef and other odds and ends and a Belgian waffle. So, but if it's succeeding, you can't mess with success.
Did countries go there in lieu of a pavilion if they couldn't afford a pavilion?
Well, yeah, a lot. These were all done by in that particular area, pretty much by private people. There were no real displays in here. These were all shops and restaurants. So you didn't have a situation where you would go in and there'd be a thing on I don't know, make up Malta. There wasn't a Malta thing where you went in there and they talked about the island history or anything like that. If you went in there, there would be something about I don't know what the favorite food of Malta is or whatever product they made. And I'm gonna be really bad here. Maybe it was malted milk. Hey, sorry.
Or fried Maltese falcon.
Yeah, that's right. Whole shops selling little Maltese falcons, right? That would have been good. But yeah, it was an interesting area, and they had some restaurants were really nice. Some of the restaurants had waitress service, beer type things, but most of them were just snack bars. And you did have table areas. There was a carillon that played. My mother really enjoyed going to this area because one of the shops, and it was right at the corner, might have been around here, was the Hummel shop. And my mother just was really big into collecting Hummels and everything. And so she went in there and oohed and ahhed about. I mean, they had some really, really expensive stuff that you could only ooh and ah at. But like I said, it was nice because it was different, you know, so they didn't spend a lot of money on it, but it was fun. Again, artist renditions, some of these things came out to be very much like the renditions. In other cases, we'll see they didn't, but this was the Republic of China. You can see how early the date is on this. This is 61, 62. So they were coming along with their plans, and they came to fruition pretty much, you know, exactly like this. Of course, the pavilions on the other side are sort of just stylized, but we're supposedly looking in from the gate here, which they did build, and this giant long walkway actually turned out to be about 10 feet long or 20 feet long or something, not, looks like 200 feet here. Some of the photos are not concept art, but things that did get built. Pavilion of Spain, we've talked about, was one of the rare international exhibits actually sponsored by the foreign government and not foreign industry. And it became one of the big international hits of the fair. The dancing was well accepted. They had a really great thing on art by Salvador Dali, but they also introduced sangria into the United States, which became a huge mega hit. Then you had others. This is the Hall of Education, and it was really interesting because, you know, the sponsors inside were things like Grolier encyclopedias, you know, so that if you went there, they would be trying to convince the parents that they should buy a set of encyclopedias for their kids. They also had things on electronic teaching machines and all sorts of stuff, which were, I can assure you, of zero interest to a 12-year-old. The pavilion was interesting. There's two shots here, so there's one design and a slightly different one. So you can see this one was actually an earlier one where it was going to be a 3-story pavilion, and then they said, okay, we can't afford it, so let's just chop it in half and put it in here. So they did build the Hall of Education, and it was an absolute failure. And the exhibitors all decided not to return for the following year. Well, most of them, a few did come back. They reopened it. It was called the Demonstration Center. And instead of going in and getting a display of electronic teaching machines, you could go in and see the new Osterizer blender, excuse me, you know, all sorts of really, the sort of thing if you go to a county fair out here in LA and you go through the exhibit hall and there's somebody about, this slices, it dices, oh, this takes off twice the soap scum off of a shower stall. Again, an absolute boring section of the fair. But you could go in there and you could get a personality test and fill out the little dots on a, if you remember the forms, you would fill out the little bubbles, put them in the computer, and it would read it and scan it. The one thing I remember most here was the New York Daily News had a pavilion there, or an exhibit, and it was kind of interesting that they showed how they could take wire photos and you know, turn them into newspaper photos, and that was the only thing I remember of any particular interest. This was a 1965 edition called the People to People Fiesta. Again, it was something that did not work out real well. It was mostly just snack bars and places to eat, but for whatever reason, they decided to charge an admission to it. So if you had a choice of eating a hamburger at the Brass Rail restaurant and not paying a cover charge, or you had to go here, you had to pay a cover charge, you can see that this area was very, very empty throughout most of 65. One of the things they did do was they had a gate that if you could fit under that bar, you know, without bending over, you could get to go in for free. So kids loved it, and I think maybe that was their gimmick. You know, hey mom, I can go in. You got to come in. You got to pay a quarter. And this was again the little blurb on the back of it. It just was not a real success. This one we're going to see later on. We've talked about it before, the Pavilion of Fine Arts. They ran into real financial problems, couldn't afford to get the displays put together and operated shortly on a shoe screen. It was originally supposed to be the Pavilion of Argentina, who built it, paid for it, and then with a change in government down there, all of a sudden had no interest and no money to operate it. So with the building already built, they said, how would somebody like to put together an art show? And it's interesting, this is artwork just to the left of the doors here. I'd have to say, looking at this, how much would people rate this on street appeal? I mean, it's just nothing of any particular interest. You know, for the average kid, if you're walking by and you see the name Fine Arts, to me, that at age 12, that would have translated to run like hell in the opposite direction. So it did not succeed, and we're going to see a reincarnation of it further along. Some of them are pretty generic. The Johnson Wax Pavilion, the Golden Rondelle, great success. The movie here actually won an Academy Award. Little blurb on the back. It was fun here. You could get your shoes shined with free Johnson wax. You know, and they had one machine that did brown and one machine that did black, of course, and that sort of thing. Back at that point in time, I think I was always wearing kids sneakers, so you know, the heck with that. But they had a bunch of games and stuff to keep kids interested. The movie was really, really good, and it's still shown at the Johnson Wax headquarters today. This is DuPont, the world of chemistry. The big thing here was, you know, taking two tubes of chemicals, pouring it together, and out comes this globby thing that they're stretching between. Then to show how they could make nylon out of, you know, chemicals right in front of you. Big demonstration did this for something called Zeppel, Z-E-P-E-L, for anti-stain. So they would take a piece of fabric, coat it in, with the word Zeppel, pour you know, all sorts of food products against it, and the word Zeppel would stand out from the stained area. The Zeppel area would be quite pristine.
I think that's supposed to be pronounced Zeppel to rhyme with repel.
Oh, great, thank you. Okay, I will now try to remember that for the next time. Thanks, Wayne. On the back here, they're showing how they're making Dacron. Of course, it's a registered trademark. And the magic of Dacron polyester is demonstrated by these three people. I had, of course, to look them up. The only thing I could find on the internet was that before the World's Fair, Palmer Whitehead was a assistant coach for the Oakland Raiders. Andy Juroskowski and Ted Richard have 2 or 3 credits. Actually, Andy, I think, had 2 on Broadway, and Ted had about 4 on different movies. So they did not take their polymer stretching routine into any giant success. The Protestant and Orthodox Center, again, some of these pavilions came out very, very much like their original model did. This was, again, a number of different denominations all saying we can't afford anything by our own, but if maybe the Methodists came together with the Lutherans, came together with the whatever, we can put together a pavilion. Then each inside, we can each have booths and areas promoting our particular faiths. Little model of the New England States Pavilion. I got a kick of all the little people scattered around. You know, again, when Carol and I worked at WED, one of the big things was, we're now called Imagineering, was to go into the model shop. And I had done some very, very crappy modeling for my my model railroad set. So I always got a kick of just how detailed they can make some of these little miniatures. Early proposed pavilion. This one looks nothing like what we ended up to see. This is Africa. So in here you can see 2 little huts on either side. Just over here you can see some dancers, and then here some tribesmen standing with their spears and that. But they went in a 180-degree different direction for the pavilion that we did see. So sometimes it was a matter of cost. Sometimes they got into things where they just realized, you know, for the area, the space they had, that it was not going to be economically possible to build some of these things. So in our second book that we did on the fair, we have a number of pavilions that never came to be. Sometimes pavilions came to be, but the design elements did not. This is a Schaefer Pavilion, and they had 2 big dome areas with a buffet that you would walk in, and that was great. But I looked at this one and I said, I don't remember that. I do remember a really neat fountain in the middle of the area, but you know, what on earth is this? Well, as we read back here, they're going to have a circular stage and a hydraulic lift, so that at nighttime it's going to function as a nightclub. Well, between October 18th, 1962 and opening day 1964, the circular lift and all that was gone, and a fountain was just put into place. I also don't remember Schaefer. I think we only went in like once or twice, with some of the relatives have a beer. But I don't remember it particularly being elegant, but I do remember the food being really, really good. This was one I got a real kick out of. I looked at this, and as soon as I looked at it, I had the feeling of deja vu. Does anybody recognize this pavilion?
Yeah, Seattle.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, here's it built in Seattle, right? And I was trying to figure out, did this picture end up, and the Seattle picture end up in a '64 collection? And apparently they had the concept that it worked so well, and we paid all the architect fees. Let's go do it again. These pictures came from the collection of Michael Bender, who is the representative for the state and religious exhibits, and evidently they were, talking about doing it. But that was very, very good, Randy. Excellent eyes. So yeah, they actually did build it, but for Seattle. By the way, after the fair, this got taken down, taken apart, trucked off, and became a chapel at a military base until the military base was finally surplus, and at that point it was lost, and nobody knows, where the pieces went after that. So this is kind of interesting. One of the entrance pylons, and you look at it, it's a nice detail of all the pieces that make up the component. But then the back of it had this description written down at the bottom. Florida, October 7th, 1963. So this is the pylon that stood at the entrance area when you walked in from the one of the two parking lots at Meadow Lake, and you came to the pylon. There you were. So again, some of these things were in place well before the opening day of the fair. Another one that came out pretty much the way we get to know it, the Mormon Pavilion. During construction, because all the cars out here, the NCR pavilion being put together. After the fair ended, a lot of these lights, like the ones right here, ended up going to the Orange County, New York Fairgrounds, which I think just a few years ago, they finally retired the last of these. But it was a real kick to walk in and see these. And, of course, everybody else is probably wondering, why is that guy staring at that light and, drooling like that? But it was neat to see him again. And we talked in earlier talks about the space frame method of hanging the roof and everything from the steel pillars and giving you a giant amount of floor space in between. This was kind of interesting one, model room here, and it's a giant, giant long model. And look how small the World's Fair is all the way down at the end here. So this is obviously a post-fair model of the fair, because very few things are left. We have Shea Stadiums out here. You have the New York State Pavilion, that sort of thing. But you can see we have Meadow Lake, and as you go further down, Willow Lake, which is another area which has become very overgrown and that sort of thing. I've not been able to figure out what this is supposed to be here. So if anybody from the area knows.
Bill, I've seen it when we used to drive into Manhattan on layovers. It's a railroad yard.
In the middle of Meadow Lake?
It's on the shore. I'm pretty certain that's what it is.
No, the railroad
you can see where the
railroad yard.
You can see where Willow Lake ends, just before that building.
Okay, because over here is these are the train buildings at the rail yard.
Right. Yeah, I realize that, but no, I've seen it before. We used to take various routes,
right,
to avoid traffic to get into Manhattan, and I've seen that.
Oh, I'll have to go look on Google Earth or something and see.
Yeah, I'm pretty certain I'm correct, but
yeah, well, it's easy to locate because it's handily labeled for us. Something coming out here, like I said, a ramp going out and a big ass thing. We'll have to go look for it. Thanks. I got a kick out of this. It's United Press International Commercial Photos Division. So if anybody has a spare phone, you can call right now. You can call Murray Hill 2040. God, that's scary. I knew that MU was Murray Hill. I'm having a real flashback. What I get a kick out of this is you see this stamp here. This is, again, post-fair, but they're still going with New York City 17. They're not using a zip code. So I was just wondering, at what point did the post office people stop recognizing were New York 17 or, any cities that had those numerical descriptions. But it would be kind of fun to call United Press and say, I'd like to get a reprint of number 117 and see what they can come up with.
Well, on that address too, I've noticed that on one of the pieces of art, they had the name of the architect. It's New York City versus now it's just New York, New York. They
Yeah,
don't say New York City in the addressing system.
yeah, I didn't notice that. Thank you. That's kind of
Yeah,
cool.
the other one was just, it was the initials NYC with dots after each one of them. And then,
Right.
then it said it's zip code or whatever it was.
Yeah, it's funny how things like that, you catch them. Thank you. Then we go over to the folks at Chrysler, and this was I get a kick out of because I belong to a group about Jerry Anderson who did the Thunderbirds and everything, the TV shows, and somebody said they didn't realize how big the puppets were, and you can see here from the size of the performers up above, that the things are a pretty good size. As the caption over here tells us that we have the director doing a rehearsal of the 20-minute puppet show. That's a long time for these guys to be doing the show. This was a big hit in '64. This is obviously a '65 update, and it was the fact that it was done live every day. That was an expensive little show for them to put on, to hire all these people, because 7 days a week and so many hours a day. So. But I had no idea that the people that did the show were also the authors of A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum. So,
Well, also, wasn't Larry Gelbart involved in, I think it was MASH, the TV
yes,
show?
MASH, yeah, he was one of the big guys behind that. So some of these guys took the little things like puppet shows and all, and took it into a giant showbiz career. Some of the artwork is really detailed. When I first looked at this, it almost could pass for a photo of the Vatican Pavilion. So, very close to what was actually built in there. And then, of course, they're given the credit in here. And you think if you were one of the people that were building this, and this particular picture was distributed all across the United States, what great publicity for your construction company or your architects, or even whoever the unknown artist is that has signed his or her work off to the side.
Is it typical to have religious pavilions at World's Fairs?
Yeah, it has been. There has been a lot of Temple of Religion pavilion, for example, at the 33 Chicago Fair. There was also at both the 39 fairs had it. In New York, they really went way out of their way for the religious pavilions, because they realized after Robert Moses pissed off the BIE that they were going to have to fill a lot of space. So they made a deal with the religious pavilions that you can build a pavilion here and we won't charge you rent for the dirt underneath. You still need to come up with all the money to build it, staff it, and they really, of course, gouged them with their trash collection fees and all that. But it became a big thing that once the Vatican announced that they were going in, and of course bringing the Pieta over, a lot of the other religions got together and said, we can't be outshone. And that's why, like, the Protestant Orthodox Center came to be, that, there was no way one denomination could come up with something on their own, but let's go in on it with an umbrella. He also, of course, then had the Billy Grahams, using it as a fundraiser and evangelism and all that. So yeah, the '64 fair had a big religious component because they got in for free rent. The heliport up at the top of the fair restaurant, we never ate up there during the fair. It was out of the Cotter price bracket, but we could live vicariously through photos. But supposedly a very nice restaurant. The menu looks great. I mean, and the prices, of course, you look at it now and you go, how could that have been out of my my price range? And then you got to stop and remember, oh, I didn't have a job back then, so it made a difference. We ended up with another model of the same one, I think, another fixture of the New England states. And I figured, I saw this one, I got a kick, and I said, I must have a really rare, of all the things in my World's Fair collection, this is probably one of the rarest. How many people can actually own a picture of the Ennisburg Falls Band playing? So I looked them up. They do have a Facebook page, and they're still around. And I've got to get in touch with them and send them a picture of this. But they still have a band. They had a pictures of this drum that they took out. And if we look at the back here, it's Vermont Day at the World's Fair, July 31st, 1964. And the governor of Vermont is there and he's beating the drum. And this is over at the Corona subway yards. So that band is still with us. They're still performing, and evidently they still have the drum. So it's kind of kick. Like I said, how many people could have this picture, right? So none of you have it. It's all mine, mine.
How many would want it?
I didn't ask that. Don't do that. You're just raining on my parade, right? This was an interesting one. This was 1961, I believe, and they were making a big pitch on how the World's Fair was going to, renovate parts of Queens, but they were also doing a big tie-in with Lincoln Center for the Performing Arts, which was a project not without controversy because they tore down huge sections of the land through condemning it and throwing people out and tearing down their apartment houses and then putting in the Lincoln Center. But they did have a tie-in between the fair with different events that were held to, cross-promote each of the different ones. If we zoom in a little here, you can, pretty much this is the way it came out. But then they had all sorts of things on. Here are different things, different venues we've had across the city, and we're all going to jump in on it. So our museum and your museum and his museum, we're all going to be band together to make 64, 65 a giant cultural time for New York. So, and this is again Lincoln Center model on April 22nd, 1961.
Does anyone know if that band shell, there was a band shell like in the lower left corner or on the left side? Yeah. Does that exist?
No,
Lincoln Center. I don't remember.
no, I don't believe that part was ever put in. So again,
The land that was built on was the set for the movie West Side Story.
Right.
And they actually delayed demolition until they finished production of the film.
Right. So travel and transportation, they went through several different iterations. The original one did not have the moon dome on it. It was just the building down here. And it was going to be, cars, buses, airplanes, and that. And then Circarama came up with the idea for the giant film here put in. So they added that onto this particular pavilion. But then the one that we ended up seeing at the fair had a totally different facade and different entrance area. So again, you can track the progress of different designs that came in and went. And this was again kind of interesting because the initial building was just pretty much a giant rectangle, nothing of any excitement. But all of a sudden, with one giant moon dome put on top of it, it was a real eye catcher in the travel and transportation area. This is another one that never got built, the California State Pavilion. They did quite a few artist renditions. We have some of them in our book on it. And for a while there, they were going to simulate a giant redwood forest. They were going to do all sorts of different odds and ends. And then they got into the typical thing of politics where people in California woke up and said, why are we promoting New York? You look at it in today's term, people can go back and forth on those, amazing things Randy worked on, jets. But back in 64, 65, people didn't go an awful lot from coast to coast. So the California government pulled the plug on it. And it was really interesting because I do have, it might be in the book or I have it elsewhere. They then took this exact model and tried to sell it to somebody else and literally changed the name and said, oh, okay, this would make the Oregon State Pavilion would be really, really good, wouldn't it? Well, it never came to be. Instead, private investors got together and came up with the Hollywood USA Pavilion. But I did get a kick out of seeing this exact same picture. I mean, with zero changes whatsoever other than the name on it, because if you got a design, you might as well try to sell it to somebody. Which reminded me, by the way, anybody here ever visit the main campus of the state of New York up in Albany? It's a beautiful, beautiful school, but it was terrible in winter. The way the winds would whip through there, and it was designed with these nice pillars and everything, but they created all these wind tunnels. And somebody did a thing on it. Yeah, that's because it was originally designed as the University of Hawaii. And Hawaii didn't buy it, but the New York liked the design so much they built it, not taking into account the eastern weather. So it became a sort of a running joke when you lived up in the Albany area. Then we get all sorts of pictures. Mike Pender here. This was a very, very rare picture of Mike Pender because he's not wearing a bow tie. In almost every picture, and we're going to see Mike and a few others, you can see him. He was really rocking a bow tie. But in this one, it's New England Day, and we'll zoom in on this one here. You can see we're at Maine Day, and we have these people, the bands playing, and other odds and ends going on. So May 28th, it looks like. And on the background here, yeah, May 28th. So here's the governor of state of Maine getting a World's Fair medallion. By the way, if you look at the medallion here, it's really nice, a little plaque, a disc here on a wood base and a plaque. There's a World's Fair auction underway, and I think it's called worldsfairauction.com. And it ends this week, and one of those displays is for sale without the little front brass plaque. And he makes mention you could put your own plaque on it. So if anybody really wants to get one of those medals and make a little plaque, like, you know, present it to Don Lancaster for his outstanding contributions to the World's Fair, here's your chance. Last time I looked, it was about $35, $40 in the price range. Probably go for a bit more than that. Maybe I'll get a plaque that says Bill Cotter for serving the fair.
Look at that lobster pin in his lapel. Wasn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's Maine Day, right?
I bet there are
What's your
live
score, Bill?
lobsters in that trap.
Oh yeah, it could be down here. Yeah,
There's a
But,
live lobster in the trip.
I do have a couple of these official party badges. So if I get on the time machine, I'm going to put one of these on and I'm going to go have fun. So again,
Was
Governor
Pender
Reed.
the man on the left?
This man is the governor of Maine.
Oh, okay, so Pender is the other guy, okay.
Yeah, so Pender's giving here, Governor John Reed, he's getting the medal from Mike Pender.
Okay.
By the way, Mike Pender, I mentioned before, he took home all sorts of bits of the fair and everything, but he did so much with the World's Fair Collector Society that he formed to keep the memory of the fair going and you know, preserve a lot of it. Absolutely a wonderful, wonderful guy to spend time with. Now in this one, give you a question game. What pavilion does anybody think this is from?
I'm gonna guess Long Island Railroad.
That was my first guess. We're both equally wrong. This is the sort of thing you look at and go, I can't imagine where it is. And luckily this tells us it's the mobile oil driving skill game.
Okay.
Yeah, so you would be driving on this thing, and they had you know, obstacles that would come up. So if you were driving on the car simulator and all of a sudden these guys came down crossing your path, you better hit the brake or else you're gonna lose points when you run them over and everything. But when I
It
first
looks,
saw that,
looks
I
like
had,
an industrial area in the background. Isn't it industrial?
oh yeah, wherever they're shooting, it's on a real railroad and they're just driving
Yeah,
along.
it's
No
industrial.
idea where this was shot, anywhere, somewhere, you know, who knows where it could be. But I did get a kick out of it. So then we go back to Maine. I love the little slogan here. Come on to Maine, 2 hours by plane, just 5 if you drive. So big Maine Day thing here, and all the staff of the pavilion out there. So you can
Was
see,
that Mike? Was that Mike with the bow tie down there on his knee?
I don't think it's Mike in this particular one.
Okay.
Let's zoom in here. No, I don't think that's Mike. But we're going to see in another picture, Mike had a doppelganger with a bow tie. But this was, again, a great way that you could have Maine, you know, rather than spend all the money to compete against, you know, a New York and put in a giant pavilion. You do your piece, you do Rhode Island. It was a great multi-purpose facility. This is a 1965 picture. The Texas Music Hall had failed. The fair was desperate to get a new tenant. So the fellow here on the left, we're going to see on the description here. Hang on, move over. It's here it is. Jimmy Chang. He bought out this area. It's really interesting. A friend of mine got roped in by Jimmy Chang, who still had a big exhibit at the Shanghai World's Fair in 2000, and I think he's still waiting for Jimmy Chang to pay him. So you know, I guess that's how you get to be a multi-billionaire or millionaire. You just sign people up and you don't pay them. But This describes some of the things, the two restaurants. One of them was the Texas Steakhouse, which was there both years. They had a seaquarium, a simulated ocean liner. So I have a few small pictures of the various odds and ends in there. But and you can see times are changing. We're gonna have a discotheque. This one I got a real kick out of. We were looking at four guys standing on pilings, and if we zoom in on it, they're holding the progress report here that there's 1 year to go. Mike has his bow tie, and they're all standing on wood pilings that were put in for holding up some unknown pavilion. And this is where the big issue comes for, are these the pilings underneath the New York State Pavilion, or, something totally gone? But if you take untreated wood pilings and just drive them into the ground, and the ground has a certain amount of water at a water table, and in a certain zone it has a certain amount of oxygen, over time these things become just pulped away and eaten away by little microbes. But yeah, 1 year to go. And that, I was at an event yesterday and we were talking about the race to build things like Small World being built in less than a year. You look at this, there's only 1 year to go for whatever building they're building. They've got to finish driving those pilings, pour the foundation, build the building, paint it, staff it, and all that. So it's you can imagine the race just to get the fair open. And in the background, you can look around, there's no real signs of anything, anything else any further along.
I wonder how they climbed up on those pilings and how they get off.
Yeah, good question. There was probably a ladder taken away, and they were all probably balancing very carefully. So
Very careful.
hang on 1 second. Somebody's at the door. I'll be right with.
It's the mailman. One person moved the wrong way, all four of them would fall.
Hey, Jim Brown, thanks for the information on that band shell.
You're welcome.
You guys should be proud of me. There was the Girl Scouts, and I didn't buy any. It's only because I bought them the last time they were here.
I remember the cookies used to be 75 cents a box. Used to be.
$6 now.
And the cookies are very small.
Yeah, but they're still, the Thin Mints are still very good. So
Oh, yeah.
here's Mike Pender again. This was one of the things he loved to do, is give tours. So here we have looks like a school group in here, and he's got this very long pointer, and we'll just zoom in here for a second. Down below, you can see, a lot of the pavilions. This is pretty well along later in the fair, where there aren't any crazy designs that didn't really come to be. So there are a few things over here like Rheingold, and I said, oh, okay. I don't remember Rheingold. It's operated under a different name or something, but the kids are all enjoying it, looking at the camera and not looking at the model, so that they probably told them say cheese and smile. But this model was great, and this is the thing that when they took off different models and they weren't using them anymore, Mike would take them home. So it worked out. This one's real interesting. I really got a kick out of this one. There's no idea of who the people are. There was just a faded piece of Scotch tape in the back where it had fallen off. But besides the fact that Mike has convinced somebody else to wear a bow tie, what's really interesting is that we start zooming in here on it, and we can see all sorts of things that did not come to be. So, there was no Beach Nut Pavilion, Graphic Arts Pavilion, Ballantine, a whole bunch of things. Construction Pavilion, these are all people that at one point signed a letter of intent, put down a deposit, and whatever things did not occur.
You notice Bell Telephone is referred to as AT&T there.
What's that?
Bell Telephone is referred to as AT&T.
Yeah, well, AT&T was the legal entity. The Bell system was just a branding of it, but yeah, AT&T. Then down below we have Pittsburgh Plate and Glass, Temple of Religion, Synagogue Council, another one over here, Project 64. We did cover a bunch of these in the second book on failed things that came to be, but you can see Poland was supposed to be there. So I just get a real kick out of looking at these old maps and thinking about what could have been or what was going to be, and like I said, a lot of these came along and just got to the concept art and didn't work. But we're going to see more in the world of food, which got past that.
Spain is in a completely different location.
Yeah, yeah,
And Johnson Wax was way at the top.
Yeah, let me zoom back in on that for a second. Yeah, they move things all around. I think what happens is, as you get a better area. Johnson Wax was really lucky they didn't go up here because nobody went up here. I mean, this whole area just became emptiness. And yeah, you can see over here, Simmons didn't end up. Well, I think Simmons might be near here, but all these other little things here. A lot of these plots went unused for the fair. They just became garden type areas. So
IBM's not on there.
nope. So
Like Metropolitan Life has.
No, I think it is there. I think it's just to the left of this man's head.
you think so?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
see
you're
IB.
right.
Oh yeah,
You're right.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I just hit the mouse. I got a dog that jumped on my leg there. So yeah, you're right. It's just to the side. So it's IBM Ear Pavilion. So
That's actually where it was located, so you're probably right.
what's that?
I said, I think that is where it was actually located, so you're probably right.
Yeah. So anyway, it's always fun to see what pops up on some of these. And again, maybe Google image can tell us who some of these people are, but I don't. I wish there was a description on the back. So Maryland, just a generic pavilion, picture of their pavilion there. Restaurant over here, very popular. The thing I got a kick out of this was I read this and said, okay, they have a fisherman's wharf. I've seen that. I remember the theater, exhibit area, and a pool. And I'm going, what pool do they have? And I think they meant, oh, we have some a reflecting fountain out front. But when I first read it, I said, pool to me means a swimming pool. But no, to them, it was a fountain. We have another one here. This is Mike Pender, again, bow tie, and he's giving out another medal. And this particular one, there's a thing on here. The woman's wearing a sash for Oregon, and they've got this thing here. I can't read it quite all of it, but visit Oregon soon. And there was no description on the back, but it was obviously Oregon Day. And here's Paul Bunyan in the background. Then some pavilions got to a point where they came out, they posed for pictures, they went home and never seen again. So here's a bunch of people that Mike is showing around, and this is going to be where Alabama was going to have its pavilion. You can see work is underway. There's all sorts of pile drivers and cranes. I believe this is back in the pool of industry area, and I'm not quite sure where Alabama was supposed to be, but a lot of these things were announced. What was unfortunate for them is they had to pay a deposit to get their name put on a part on the map. So I guess the fair company at least got something out of Alabama, but they did not get a pavilion.
Well, it looks like that one guy was pointing and saying, "Isn't that where we're supposed to be?" See the look on his face there?
Yeah,
the guy
yeah.
next to Mike Pender.
Yeah. Like, wait a second.
That's why they never came up. They said, "This isn't where we're supposed to be. We were promised over there. We're not coming back."
Yeah.
Yeah, really. Yeah, you put us in this swamp, and we're supposed to be over here by the Unisphere.
Yeah. It was nice because this guy's reacting too. So yeah.
Well, that Alabama didn't have any money at all, and that's the reason why it never went up, or what?
Well, they've had enough money to get started. They didn't have enough money to follow through.
How do they
Okay.
decide who went and what plots? How do they decide that?
They had a map, and on it, they had certain areas they wanted to put the states in one area, international in another. But they kind of got semi loosey goosey about it. But it would really come down to a thing. They would say if Coca-Cola had picked their spot first, they would purposely not put Pepsi-Cola next to it. Now, where did Pepsi want to be? They wanted to be, everybody. The best location anybody had was RCA. I mean, that was just absolutely brilliant. That as you came down the main ramp coming in from the subway, the first pavilion you saw was RCA. But the other one that signed up really, really, really early on was AT&T. They wanted to be at the end of the main mall. So anybody looking down the main mall, looking at the nightly fireworks show, the AT&T pavilion was in the background. So they did charge more for prime areas. And, again, they wanted to try to, homogenize it. So you had, different things. You didn't have like I said, two car companies right next to each other. You want to have something breaking it up in between. This one,
Bill, kind of as an answer to that question, I think, Bill, you and I think may have discussed this by email several years ago or messenger. In that book, I think it's called Building the Future, there's a very tiny and poorly printed map, Robert Moses' private or not private, but secret allocation where he wanted everything to go. And I actually saw a copy of it at the New York, the main branch of the New York Public Library once on a layover. It was before cell phones, so I couldn't take a picture. It was a large map. So, I mean, there was really nothing I could do. I wish I could have gotten a copy of it, but it was fascinating because he had something pretty much assigned to every space on the map, including those, hinterlands, north or, above AT&T and all that. To me,
Yeah, it's supposed to be
having
on
been
the
in
other
the airline industry, below the New York Port Authority heliport, he had all the airlines of the world. Back then, BOAC, TWA, American, Pan Am, the big major airlines, Japan Airlines, but none of them showed up.
Yeah, I've seen that chart, and again, he had on the above AT&T, there was that section I showed said nobody went. He actually had them on the other side of the freeway. It was going to be
Right.
a area, right? Well, it's interesting because when you talk to people that worked the fair, Moses aimed high, and part of the thing was if you just went to someone with an empty plot and said, "Would you like to go to the World's Fair?" and you don't see anybody there, where's the excitement? But his whole thing was if he put names on there and he showed it to Japan Airlines. And they said, "Oh my God, Pan Am's on it, TWA's on it, American's on it. We better get there too." He also used it as a target for his executives that you better go get some of these guys or you won't be around. And it became a real ambitious thing. Like there's a book called Hi Ho to the Fair, written by the guy that was charged with getting all of the South American nations to participate. It's a really great book. And he talks about going down and meeting with the president of Uruguay, and then they would go over and see the people from Argentina, and then oh my God, they just overthrew the government in Uruguay. We got to go back and go do it again and everything. So if you do get a book, a chance to see it, Hi Ho to the Fair. It's a great inside look at the fair's battle to fill space and the internal pressures and things to do that. So yeah, Moses, that particular secret chart of his, I don't think most of those companies even knew they were being considered for the fair, but I think he said they were being targeted for the fair. But you got to start, you got to aim high, right? Set the bar and make it a thing. And you wonder how many people did participate. Like I said, a lot of the religions, once the Vatican Pavilion was announced, man, I got to get a piece of that pie. We can't let those Catholics have all the glory of themselves. So let's go and do something over there. And that's probably what they're hoping. Oh, we can't let South Carolina get the big thing. So let's go up here and show Alabama. It's going to cost how much? This one I got a real kick out of. Whoever took this picture, to me, needs a lesson in lighting or something. But I'm just going to give you all a warning right now. Whoops, I'm sorry. I didn't mean, I was hitting the wrong. I was trying to zoom in on it. Come on, here we go. Zoom is next to it. I'm just going to say, if any of you don't own any of my books, I'm sending this kid to your house. I mean, the lighting is just terrible, and the poor kid's got a giant mouthful of braces. But even look at this guy. Look how terrible his eyes came out, right?
Look at his ears. Look at the ears on him too.
Yeah. So anybody have any idea what we're looking at here besides the
They're all possessed.
Yeah, I mean, it looks at that. And
He grew up, he started the James Bond movie, the guy with those steel teeth. Remember that guy?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that. I was going to look for a picture of Richard Keel and say, here's how he became Jaws, right? So
it's the early years.
So this is inside Johnson Wax, and it's to be live, and the youngsters laugh, but the gentlemen in the rear find the pace more tense than amusing. So I get a kick out of it.
That's Alfred Hitchcock.
Almost looks like
gentleman
Hitchcock.
on the
I was going to
left
say the same thing.
Alfred
Not paying
Hitchcock.
attention.
Yeah, but
What about the guy that-
this terrible lighting, and the fact that Johnson put this picture out there. I just think this is one of the worst pictures I've ever seen from the World's Fair.
And yet you collected it.
Yeah, well, it was in something. If it's from the World's Fair, I gotta get it, right? India pavilion. They had the restaurant here, Indian restaurant, and the main pavilion exhibits and everything back here. This one was kind of interesting when I first saw this, and I was looking at this particular, you know, the Santa and everything. But when we drew my eye to the back here were these metal cones. If you remember the 64 page on Facebook, I posted a demolition picture, and I said, I think these are part of the Tower of Light. And people said, no, 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 that's not the Tower of Light. It's because the lights, the actual beams were totally different. But these, when I came up with this, I said, my God, it was a Tower of Light. After the fair ended in demolition, all of these metal things are out here just sitting in a field waiting for somebody to collect them. And they were about 3 feet across, very finely machined with bolt holes to hold the sections together. But, you know, people told me I was totally wrong, couldn't be in the Tower of Light. I said, well, it's where the Tower of Light was. And as this description tells us, it was the Tower of Light. So it was really nice to get vindicated. So I've got to go and post this online to all the naysayers and say, haha, I was right. So the Tower of Light addition to the show for 65, and again, the Tower of Light was a really great thing with Ready Kilowatt, Benjamin Franklin, you know, all the characters made out of things like light bulbs and stuff. So in this particular one, if we zoom in here, here's Ready Kilowatt, and well, actually, this is one of the light bulb figures, and they're taking us out for a tour. And then down below, a small village as Santa's flying over on his way to bring joy. This is
Not
one.
many,
What's that?
I was gonna say, not many trees in that village.
It's winter. Yeah, yeah. I was thinking that you know, if you look at the intricacies of like the Ford Pavilion International you know, village models, or even just the models of the New England states, they didn't use the same model makers.
Yeah.
That exhibit was inside the Tower of Light.
Yeah. Now this one I got a kick out of, and maybe how many people do we have here from New Jersey? Anybody?
From New Jersey.
So maybe you can explain this to me, that they're what you call it, that they're here, and this step stool or this ladder here is covered with flowers. Obviously middle of winter because everything is so bare out here. So they have these two people here from New Jersey, and they are around the ladder garden smelling the flowers, which since they were plastic, good luck. But what on earth is a ladder garden? Anybody know? Anybody have a ladder garden history or do anything with ladder gardens?
So it's a way to
I think
hold
it's just-
your flower pots on the steps.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's just a way to display plants and flowers when you have limited room.
Yeah, I guess so. In this particular,
But those look like artificial flowers. They don't
Oh,
look like
they
real
are.
flower.
Because
Yeah.
well,
Usually the ladder would be a plexiglass structure normally. And
yeah,
not
well,
that
look
tall.
outside. It's obviously winter, so these things aren't going, and they're not in pots. They're just, you know, things.
No, this is a wooden ladder, because you see how
Yeah.
you can see the grain on the steps, and you can see that metal bar underneath. Those were done so to give strength to
Right.
it not coming apart.
They drilled a hole in the wood and stuck the stem in the hole.
Yeah.
So New Jersey, what can you say?
Just remember the line 1776 about New Jersey. It's
What
just a state, it's just a state between New York and Pennsylvania.
Just a state of mind.
Yeah. And
Not
then
even that.
we have over here, this was a you can see in the background a little ski thing here, and there's another thing for Okemo Mountain. And this is where they actually did fake skiing. They had fake snow. A guy would come down, and this was really, you know, in New York summer, and you know, July, and there's a guy out there giving skiing demonstrations. So it was kind of cool to look at. So Robert Moses is talking to a fellow who's not identified. He might be the governor, but this particular photo came from the Vermont Development Department.
Was Moses a short man?
Yes, he wasn't particularly imposing in height. So
Okay.
again,
And
short
usually
relative. I think it was about my
smiling
height,
again.
5'8". So
As usual, he is smiling.
Oh yeah, he's always beaming from year to year. He was such
Always
a happy
smiling.
guy. Then I do not know. We can all take guesses, but this one was not identified as to which of the puppets it was. Unlike last week.
Carol Channing?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
Harold
Yeah,
Channing.
it kind of looks like her.
looks at the Hello Dolly outfit. Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
that would be, yeah. Okay, thanks, Tom. Tom comes to the rescue. I did get a kick out of here, the irony of the publicity company that's putting out a thing about all the puppets and dolls was the Bill Doll and Company. So anyway. Futurama, it was interesting. We were having a talk the other day with some Disney folks about the Disney shows and how popular they were and how Futurama beat them out. And the big way Futurama beat them out was the ride capacity. You can see how many people can sit abreast in the ride here and go through it. So GM could really bump them through, but you can imagine what the Disney capacity would have been if you could get this many people on a continual moving belt going past, say the Carousel of Progress. Of course, it wouldn't have been the carousel without the unique thing of the audience moving. But I've always thought what's interesting is so many people today will talk about remembering the Carousel of Progress or Small World or Mr. Lincoln. You don't get many people at all talking today about Futurama. So they got a lot of people through it, but I still think with all bridges aside, the Disney shows just beat the pants off of Futurama. And again, they're talking about millions of people seeing it and, great time.
Bill, do you think that's a mock-up?
Yeah, I believe this one might be a mock-up, and it has shown up in pictures from the General Motors photo collection, and I believe it is a mock-up that was not actually shot at the fair.
Was it that, were the fairgoers that close to the exhibit? I mean, obviously you could just stand up and walk into the exhibit.
Yeah, there was generally a wall or something to keep them from just like this lady here hopping up and going on posing with a running out and grabbing the octopus. So again, I do think you're right. This was a mock-up for publicity purposes, because every picture I have does show a barrier between the actual people and the exhibits.
But people that in those days wouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes and no. Remember the
Well,
kids spent a week camping out inside the Coca-Cola pavilion. I mean, yeah. Back then, of course, now we have the things people strip naked and they run through them. So
Wait, Bill,
yeah.
could you talk briefly about that? A kid hiding out in the Coca-Cola pavilion?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this kid ran away from the fair, ran away from home, and he got into the fair, and he stayed in the Coca-Cola pavilion, and he hid out in the jungle scene where there's a Jeep in there, and there's a small stream with Coca-Cola, bottles floating in water to cool them off. And he stayed there, and he would come out at night, and he would go into the various fountains, scoop money out of them, because people would, any fountain in there, people throwing money into it. He scooped the money out, and then he would go back, sleep for the rest of the night, get up during the day, walk out, have a hot dog, a hamburger, go see the shows, and go back and go to sleep at night. And he finally got caught when a Pinkerton guard saw this kid at 3 o'clock in the morning scooping money out of a fountain. So his name, Dominic, the last name escapes me at the moment. He unfortunately has passed away since then, but I was in touch with his sister. And the news stories show pictures of Dominic being happily reunited with his parents, who were so glad to see him. His sister told me Dominic, when they got home, couldn't sit down for a week. So yeah.
That's a cute one.
Those Pinkertons were tough, weren't they?
He had to be a smart kid to think of going out scooping up that money so you'd have money to spend during the day.
Yeah, no.
I don't think I ever thought of that.
Yeah, well, now you know.
Remember that Tom Hanks movie where he lived at the airport because he couldn't get into the country?
Yeah.
It's interesting. I was having a talk last night with Bob Gurr of the Disney Imagineer, and we were talking about the Pinkertons and his experience with them. He was not fond of them at all. And we figured that's what caught the kid, was the Pinkertons were probably scooping the money out themselves at night, because there was everything that was nailed down. And
the Pinkertons still in business today?
Yes.
Pinkerton's still in business today?
Oh yeah, they still are. So here's the interior of the Protestant Orthodox Pavilion, just again, some concept art of how each of the various denominations can have their particular, exhibits and displays. A nice little model of the New Jersey Pavilion, one of their tercentennial tents that they were putting out there. Well, we go over to the Atomic Energy Commission. This was done in the Hall of Science, and you would go down there, and you're using robotic arms here to show how you would have to pick up an isotope and carry it out of its lead-lined container and put it inside another thing for experiment, and giving kids ideas of what was so hard to work with it. And here's a blurb on the back, Adamsville, USA, and it was something supposed to be done for kids only, so that was kind of interesting. And then just for details, it came from the Oak Ridge Institute of Nuclear Studies. Oak Ridge Institute being one of the places that was very instrumental in designing atomic bombs. So now, after they designed the bombs, now we're going to turn the atom into peace. And this is still at the days that we're talking about using, we could build another Panama Canal, but we could do it really fast by just blowing it up, using nuclear bombs and just blasting a channel through the isthmus. So luckily, I don't know of any nuclear construction projects that have ever taken place. So remember we talked before about the Pavilion of Fine Arts. Well, it did not work, and it became the Canadian Beer Parlor. I got a real kick out of this picture, though, because there's, in the background, you got a bear balancing on a beer keg. But you look and go, what is so unique about a piano that is going to be out in front of the Canadian Beer Parlor? So let's zoom in on it. And you can see here, it's a portable piano player. Makes any piano a player piano in just 30 seconds. So this is a device that you would go and stick across the keyboard. You would take your rolls of piano player music, put them on here, and off it would go, and the little hammers would come down and play the piano for you. So Don or anybody else, any of our internet sleuths, if you could find out if the portable piano player ever got into production. I've never knew anybody that had one, but it looks like it'd be a really neat thing. And on the back, yeah.
Yeah, there have been movable piano player devices that wouldn't just sit on the keyboard, but would roll up to it. And the German name for it is a Vorsetzer, which means it sits before the piano.
Oh, okay. Well, this was a big one here, the Heinzmann Piano Company, and Dynavoice, and he's the inventor of the portable piano player. And then I had never known at this time until I saw that Howard Bargreen, there was the Bargreen, pavilion. I didn't realize that, Bargreen was his name. I just thought bar, beer, whatever. So, but yeah, for me, having no musical talents whatsoever, if I had a piano, I think I'd be getting a Heinzmann piano player. So anyway, I got a kick out of that. Photo Fair Company Incorporated. Again, look at their address. World's Fair, New York, 11380. So that was the zip code assigned to the World's Fair. So you could actually, right there, that would have gone to the United States Coastal Pavilion that we saw last week. They sort out the mail, and they would take you out there. So we're going to jump into the world of food. This was a interesting one. There's a large collection of booklets. I have them all on my website that the World's Fair Corporation issued to commemorate groundbreaking ceremonies for different pavilions. And I've had the World of Food one out there for years. But the World of Food also put out their own construction booklet here. And I got this copy from Mike Pender's son. So this is the groundbreaking ceremonies and the construction start on the land site, January 23rd, 1963. So you think, wow, the fair is going to be, 15, 16 months from now. They're going to, no sweat, right? We're going to be able to build this pavilion. And they had all this great scheme. So this is what it was going to look like. And they did start work on it. And unfortunately, they had the money to start it, and they didn't have the money to finish it. And they kept raising money as they were signing up exhibitors, and it was sort of like a Ponzi scheme. The money I got in from this batch of people I used to pay for that work, and I need more money to pay for more work, and they just started getting slower and slower and further behind on the construction of it. And this became a real sore spot for Robert Moses because it was right off one of the main entrances into the fair. It had a very, very prominent spot. And not too long before the fair, all they had was a concrete pad and some steel beams sticking up. And Moses decided he didn't want this. He didn't want a half-finished pavilion. He did allow that for the Hall of Science, that because that was supposed to be a permanent museum. And he was also friends with the guy for the Belgian Village, and he let those two pavilions go on with their plans and their construction well throughout the '64 season. But he, at a certain point in day, he went to General Potter, who was the head of construction for the fair, and said, anybody not by a certain point at a certain date, they're not going any further. So he decided he was going to tear down the World of Food. Well, the World of Food people kept saying, two things. One, I think, publicly, we're almost ready to go. We want to, be able to finish it. But I think they also thought, hey, maybe we can recoup some of our losses by getting the fair to pay, us for quote damages. So Moses had this thing taken down, and it went to court. And the steel beams, because by this time they delivered a tremendous amount of steel to the fair site. They just didn't have the money to finish erecting it. So Moses had all the steel taken away, and it got stored in a warehouse in Brooklyn for several years until they finally resolved the court battle, which was resolved in the Fair Corporation's favor. But the World of Food became a giant sodded over place. The foundation was still in the ground. They didn't have time to rip it out before the fair opened, so they basically piled dirt and put sod on top of it. But it was going to be a big pavilion. They were going to have all sorts of exhibits. We're going to see a list of some of the names of the exhibitors that were in there. And it could have been a really exciting pavilion, and talk about food. As back in this point in time, things like pizza, was a neighborhood thing. Now things are going to be going into the world of mass production and, international foods and all the rest of it. So they were going to have the magic wonderland of the world of food and they were going to be also showing, again, joked before about osterizer blenders and all the rest of it, but they were going to be showing both things that you could put in your restaurant, but also in your home. I got a kick down here, the quote at the bottom, only the brave deserve the fair. Well, it's kind of ironic that these guys took the challenge. They thought they were brave, and Robert Moses proves that only the guys with money deserve the fair.
Huh.
Here's all sorts of the companies that were going to be inside. We talked about Claxton Bakeries, the people that did the fruitcakes. They published all sorts of postcards about come see us at the World of Food. Oops, we're not going to be at the World of Food, and let's go and get a big rubber stamp and restamp all the postcards. Come and see us at the I think it was the Better Living Center. Hershey was another one. Hershey printed up a zillion candy bar wrappers, and they were going to make candy bars and give them out at the fair and everything. And oh, we're not going to be there. We're going to go over to the Better Living Center. A lot of these companies just said, okay, no time, we're not going to get it. But, it was quite a list. I do get a kick out of seeing some things like Pepsi Cola's on there. They had their own pavilion, but they were also going to be in the World of Food because they were now, again, we have to turn the Wayback Machine. Back then, you did not have the little machines that we have in all the restaurants today where you walk up, take your Coke, push it against the lever, it comes, fills the cup, and you go. This was when, back then you had everything with the levers where somebody would pull it, fill it up for you. They were now, again, trying to show that you could get the smaller shops, you could automate things and put all this in. But it's quite a list of the who's and who's that want to be in here. I look at this and I try to figure out, was the Atalanta Trading Company supposed to be two words? That's the fourth one down. The Angostura Wupperman, I think they make bitters, for making drinks and that. But yeah, it was a whole giant list of people that were going to be. So as I said, Claxton and Hershey, their products exist. Both you can still find Hershey chocolate wrappers that say World of Food, and you can also find them that are overprinted to say Better Living Center. So here's all the people that were going to be out there that day, and all the exhibitors, the chief of protocol kind of come out there. They had some big shots. Adlai Stevenson going to be out there, of course, Robert Moses. They got one of their World's Fair plaques, and then all the honored guests that were going to be out there to put it together.
Weren't they collecting money from all those exhibitors that they're supposed to be in the building?
Oh yeah,
So
all
that
these
sort
people
of-
were putting up money, and then now it became, I want my money back. Well, what money? You know, so yeah, the world of food became a real, a lot of lawyers made a lot of money in the world of food. So here's the people that built it and or designed it, were building it, and again, the Charles Meismer, the contractor, he probably really took it in the shorts because again, they built all this, bought all the steel and everything, and sold it off for scrap metal. But here's where it was supposed to be. So you would be coming in the main entrance here, and you know, right off to the side, World of Food. And again, I don't know, I don't think a lot of it makes up in detail here, but we can look into some of the things that did not come to be. You can see, oh, rather than just say Africa, let's list every single one of the countries and just flood it here. So we got some of these countries came to be. USSR obviously did not. And a bunch of the other ones here, you know, we didn't know the Turkey Pavilion or Colombia, but down here, Heartland States, we had seen that in previous talks as far as they were going to have a giant soaring sort of simulated flight over their area. Some of the other ones we did see on the map behind Pender before the Synagogue Council was still on that map, but still on this one, Project 64. I have no idea what the Grayson Robinson stores sold. Doesn't ring a bell to me living in New York, but that could have been the name of some holding company that owns something else. The Belgian village was picturesque Belgium. And we hop down here. And again, a whole bunch of these did come to be. We know now where Alabama thought they were going to be, or where they were standing. Maybe they were again pointing, we want to be over there with those guys, but that's where they were supposed to be. And some of these states, again, just didn't, nothing came to be, and they didn't exist. And like, for example, Marine Center, giant thing that was supposed to be a lake with demonstrating boats and all sorts of stuff. And I do cover it in the second book about things that never came to be. So I did get a kick out of what you call it. In this particular one, aerospace, no, that became Chrysler. So all sorts of things did change over time. As Randy mentioned, this was going to be where all the airlines, you know, they were going to have big things and actually put a jetliner out in there and put it on display. And oops, that didn't work. So let's see, you know, we can put United Airlines did have an exhibit inside the Travel and Transportation Pavilion. So, but some things did come to be.
Bill,
Yeah,
just curious, Westinghouse is mixed in with all the states. It's
Yeah.
the only non-state thing. Did it really exist there?
yeah, and that's because in 1965, 1939, this was a giant industrial area over here. So Westinghouse came and they put their time capsule down in the hole in the ground, and we'll dig it up in 5,000 years. Well, now in 64, this area has morphed into a state area, but Westinghouse wants to go and put another time capsule next to the first one. So since the first one's stuck there, Westinghouse was here with all these states surrounding it just because they had been there in the prior year. Same thing, you get over here and you had all these states over here. Florida's over here because again, they were here in 1939 and they thought that they reused a lot of the pilings and everything to be in the same area as they were for 39 that they were in 40. So you had, you know, talking about siting things, some people ended up, you know, because they wanted to be some areas, Westinghouse, whether they wanted to be here or not, they kind of got stuck there. And we got up here, if you look, we never ended up with a highlight arena. we did get a wax museum, but not quite right there. Bourbon Street did not end up over there. There was also supposed to be a giant American Indian exhibit over here. All sorts of things announced, and it did not come to be. Well, like I said, it's if you go through the progress reports, many of these little pavilions or exhibits would have a concept art. It might just be a little snippet about upcoming thing of Project 64, and then it might have one or two words about it. But a lot of these, the only record that these people ever had hopes of exhibiting at the fairs are going to be up here. Like we saw before, I forget which one was, Simmons was going to be up here, but then it was going to be the World of Toys. So Simmons ended up over here. So, and as Randy mentioned, the initial plan up here, this area up here had been used extensively for the 1939 fair. And Moses still had plans that there were, and that there's a gate area and everything that you're going to be able to go up into the other section of the fair, which this freeway had been put in between the 39 and 64 fairs. So it cut the fair site in pieces. But he was going to, he had all this thought this would be a great exhibit area, and nope, it's going to be a parking lot. So, but yeah, great fun of what could have been. And like I said, the everybody coming in, going through, and RCA would be right here. So you get a great look in the world of food. It was going to be a big thing, but it was not. So I hope folks found it interesting. Does everybody want to go back and, go to some of the meetings and see some of these pavilions being designed? And, you can imagine when the people had to go and say, we sunk how much money into it and we're going to do what, so it's just kind of fun to see the permutations of how it developed over time. Let me just look through the chats here and see how many mistakes I made this week.
Bill, I noticed there was a JLA court in the food. It's like, how does that, that's basically like lacrosse, or I'm wondering how that fit into the food court.
The food court? Oh, what was there?
JLA, it's like lacrosse. They featured it in that last Echo.
Yeah.
JLA, yeah.
Yeah, Highlight.
JLA or
Yeah.
JLA, yeah.
That was going to be in the lake amusement area, and they were going to evidently demonstrate it because it's such a huge sport in Hawaii. Miami or whatever and stuff. I guess they were going to try to break it out in the rest of the part of the world, but they never got that far.
Yeah, seemed out of place.
Right.
Did you watch the new Echo series on Disney Plus?
No, it's on my to-do list.
They feature that game in several of the episodes.
Right. Okay, so the train thing is a train thing. That's really good. Thank you. Appreciate that. The Guggenheim bandshell. I'm sorry, I don't ever recall seeing that when I haven't been back to Lincoln Center ever. Okay, yeah. Notice their shoes have mud as they just walk the grounds. Yeah, I'm sure when you went to visit your pavilion site and you're walking out there, if it had been rainy or anything, that must have been a great exhibit. Oh yeah, okay, Tucci, Dominic Tucci, the guy that camped out at the site. Like I said, I was in touch with his sister. Reached out to me, and I said, "Oh, is he still around?" And she said, "No, unfortunately, died 3-4 years ago." But she did say the father was not amused. I'm just glad I didn't know about it at the time, or I would have been actually I wouldn't have been tempted. I wouldn't have done that to my folks. If I had done it, I would have said something like, I'm running away to join the circus. I'll be okay. But, can you imagine the thought of being at the fair by yourself and then, just wandering around at night? And he was there for like 5 days before somebody saw him. You'd think at 3 o'clock in the morning, a kid walking around, somebody would have said, "What's with the kid?"
Was he ever tempted to turn on the switches and get the exhibits activated?
Yeah.
Here's the main power switch. Let's hit this switch.
Bill, the article says he was there for 11 days.
Was 11? Okay.
But, and he lived on hamburgers and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. But if you told your folks you were going camping, they wouldn't understand that.
Yeah. No, I can imagine it was an interesting reunion, but yeah, I was the only kid I've ever heard that's run away. And we did have people every now and then think it would be really nice to stay overnight at Disneyland, you know, and they would get caught. So, but the fact that he got away and did it, you know,
For so long.
yeah, smart guy.
You know, when they close Disney after hours, they don't chase you out of the grounds. You're free to still walk around for quite a while.
Well, actually, they do a pretty good job of chasing you.
Yeah, they heard you out.
Yeah, they'll start at the far end of the park, you know, like at Disneyland, start at Bear Country, start moving everybody back and getting everybody out, and then they're all taking you to Main Street, which stays open late so they can get more money out of you. But you know, they definitely do push you out. And if you do show up walking around in the middle of the night, there's security guards all over the place. They're gonna catch you pretty good. So yeah, the odds of you staying in Disneyland and yeah, I mean, they're really big on, they go into every bathroom and check every stall and make sure everything's empty, and they don't want anybody in there overnight.
Bill,
When
I
I
love how
worked,
sorry.
when I worked at the Science Museum, they signaled closing time by blowing the steam whistle at the coal mine. And
Oh.
then we started herding people towards the main entrance. And as the periphery got empty, we turned out the lights. So there would be this progression of the museum getting dark from the edges towards the center.
Yeah, no, you have to get people going, because there's always somebody that will stay behind. You know, you can stay at Disneyland pretty late, and you know, after the closing time, and you can get some nice shots of very empty Main Street. But you know, eventually they will come down the road and say, you need to go. And we used to, I remember I was there a couple of times at closing. You know, people, oh, I just want one more minute. I said, yeah, here, one more minute. I'm gonna have to charge you for an extra day. And that usually got him out of there.
Bill, it doesn't go unnoticed by all of us that you transform the hamburger and peanut butter sandwiches into hot dogs, because that's what Bill Cotter would have done, right?
That's probably it. Yeah, yeah. Hot dogs and Belgian waffles. So you know, yeah. No, let's be fair. I haven't had a hot dog all week. So
Did
there.
you say fair? Did you say
What's that?
fair? Did you say let's be fair?
You gotta get yourself over to Pink's Hot Dogs.
Well, come on. I got away with malted milk, right? You and I heard that hurt even me. So.
And that birthday Sunday you had, oh my gosh.
Oh, that was insane. For the folks that didn't see it, there's this place called Slater's 50/50, and evidently they make hamburgers out of 50% beef and 50% bacon. Which I love bacon, but that struck me as too much bacon. So you can get a regular hamburger, but if there's a Slater's near you, they give you a free shake for your birthday, and you just go online, sign up, and they send you a coupon, and or you can buy one, and it's $14.99, I think. But it's this incredible shake. And it's really big, but on top of it, it comes with about 2.5 pounds of whipped cream, a Twinkie, a small cupcake, lollipops. I mean, they brought it out to the table, and I had a diabetic attack looking at it. So, you know, luckily, you know, Carol, we took off all the top stuff, and Carol will attest. I did not have the cupcake, and I did not have the Twinkie, and the lollipops are still sitting in the counter for someday. But yeah, Carol, wouldn't you say it was an absolutely huge thing?
Yeah, yeah. When they asked you, do you want a birthday one or a regular chocolate shake? I thought the birthday one would be a miniature, but it was huge.
Yeah, let me see if I can find it real quick. I did take a picture, and it should have been downloaded in my.
Yeah, look at you getting a couple pounds.
Posted that, didn't you?
Week.
Yes.
Yeah. Hang on. So let's see. I was out there on last Saturday.
It reminded me of the kind of thing you used to get the old Farrell's ice cream shops. If
Did
anybody
they
had
do
been
that
there,
too?
They used to come around and sing happy birthday to you at Farrell's.
yeah, they had something called "I'll
Yeah, it
Never
was-
See My Feet Again" Sunday, I think.
It was Farrell's times, 4.
Here it is, and like I said, it was a huge thing, and despite my love of junk food, I can still safely say I've never to my life had a Twinkie yet. But
50-50.
and this is all what you call it, sprinkles that are basically, you know, frozen to the glass, and it was really spectacular. So it was a great, it's a very nice thing. And we actually again, I don't know next time I'll go back to Slater's, but the food was good, the waitress was great, we had a wonderful time. So this is a solid plug if you have a Slater's 50-50 in your neighborhood. Birthday.
You ate about half of it, right?
We finished a shake. Carol helped me a little. I would say Carol had 1%. It's really funny because it comes and they said something like it's an Oreo shake or whatever, and I said, well, can I get a chocolate one for my birthday? And she goes, oh yeah, it's your birthday, you can have anything. So, but you know, it was actually, you know, you get free stuff for your birthday. That is phenomenal. A $15 shake. Just go onto their website if there's one near you. I really enjoyed the food. The burger that I got was really. I didn't get the half bacon one, but at the end of that shake and the end of the burger, I told Carol, go get the car, and I don't know if I can make it back out there myself. I mean, it was a very prodigious hamburger, and it was very.
Oh,
very,
that's true. The hamburger was huge too.
yeah. So
Is there a Slater's up by you? I've never heard of it.
It's actually out in Valencia.
Oh, okay.
It's at the mall. It used to be a different restaurant and they took it
yeah, some
over.
Italian restaurant they took over. So again, go on their website if there's one near you. If you happen to be driving past one on the freeway, you know they're getting their $15 worth of advertising here. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really you know,
Yeah,
fun.
but pretty much if you don't like hamburgers, then you kind of don't are out of luck there because they had a lot of different hamburgers.
Yeah, they did have a few other things, chicken carbonara and some salad
Yeah.
stuff. But yeah, it's definitely if you're a beef person, and some people I know that talk to this. Oh yeah, those half bacon burgers, they're the best thing in the world. To me, I love bacon, but 50% bacon. I mean, the burger is big. I cannot imagine eating that much bacon. So
I
Bill,
just looked
Bill,
up
can you-
their locations, Bill, on the web. They're kind of widely spread. They're in California, Colorado, Nevada, and Hawaii.
Oh, really?
really,
No, there's none back east.
None in
Yeah,
New
nothing.
York.
Then you're in no danger.
I'm in no danger of getting one of them anytime soon.
well, we're coming up to our 40th wedding anniversary, and I've been talking about taking Carol to Hawaii. So we're in Hawaii, Ken. Brock has his hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of poll the group. Just curious to see locally here at our Science Museum at Exposition Park. There's been a lot of news coverage, and I don't know if it's gone beyond LA or not. The fact that they are one of the ones that got one of the shuttles when they shut down the shuttle program, and they are in the process of building their new museum around it, and they're actually staging it in launch position, all vertical.
But I
And so they've
heard
been moving.
it's not going to open for a couple of years, I think.
Oh
to
yeah, they got to
open.
build the building around it because
Oh,
they
okay.
actually built the foundations and I think the lower portion, and they've lifted these pieces in. They first did the side boosters, then the big tank, and then they just moved the shuttle itself into position the other night. So I'm just curious as to whether the rest of the country, some of you around the country, have had any news coverage about this at all, because it's going to be a pretty interesting thing to be able to see one of these in launch position rather than
Yeah.
sitting on the ground.
Where
Yeah,
they
I was
building that?
out there for the
Where's that?
dedication when they first brought the shuttle out there, and they were all excited telling us about that and how it's going to be the only one in launch position, and been waiting and waiting. It's like nothing. Then all of a sudden I saw it just this week. It's like, yes, they're finally doing it, because it's glorious and it's going to be a nice complement to the other displays by far. But it's taking forever. I guess they
Yeah,
had problem
exactly.
initially
Yeah.
raising the funds as well as.
Well, yeah, now they have to protect it while they build the rest of the building around it. And I mean, that's why it's going to take a little extra time. Plus, it's a pretty big building, and then they got to move all the new displays in there and everything else. So I'm not surprised it's probably 3 years down the rown, maybe 4, before
And
we
I
actually get
remember
to
when
go
they
see it.
moved it from the airport all the way, they drove it down the streets all the way
Yeah.
to downtown, which is quite a distance.
Yeah, and they had to pick streets where they could fit
They
the
took
thing
trees
through.
out and things.
Yeah,
Where
Yeah.
are they building this at? Where's it going to be?
It's
Exposition
Science
Park.
Museum.
Yeah,
Where's
in
that?
Exposition Park near the Coliseum in LA where the
Just know that.
original Olympics were.
Near USC.
Matter
Yeah,
of fact, I think it will be
Yeah.
open by the time of the next Olympics in LA in 28. So it'll probably be a big
Yeah, it
draw, I'm
should be.
sure.
I keep looking at it, and all I could think of was things standing there and the word earthquake. You know,
Oh,
I just hope they put an awful lot of quake hold underneath it.
Yeah.
For people that
Well,
don't know what quake hold is, it's a like a modeling clay sort of thing. You stick, on the cabinet, and then you stick your, heirloom, so in an earthquake it doesn't fall over. So
yeah. Also, it's interesting because I worked for a very short time on a project at Disney where we got involved with the Kennedy Space Center down there and their exhibit area that you can go to, at Cape Canaveral. And one of the ideas I had and really was trying to push hard was to get the Saturn V that they have laying on its side upright. But unfortunately, the problem there is without building a gantry around it to support it, they have a thing called hurricanes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
when
that's-
you said about the earthquake, it's the same sort of thing. But it was just like, yeah, you couldn't just simply put something that massive with the kind of winds they could get in there. But I always thought it would be very spectacular that, you see it on the ground and yeah, look, at the end it was way down there. But when you down at the bottom of it, you're looking up and saying, wow, look how big that thing is. So anyway.
yeah, I was there for the Apollo Soyuz launch, and that they were not using the whole stack at that point. They had built a tower that the upper stages sat on. But I know what you mean. We went out to the pad and we went out to the bottom and looked up, and it was very, very impressive to see it up there.
Yeah,
That's
that was that. I was going to say that was the I just blanked out on that. Not the Saturn V, that's the Saturn 1 version of it that they then had to build because everything for handling the space capsule itself is up at the top. So they
right.
they had to put it up on a platform to get the top of the rocket in the right place.
Exactly. Yeah, that was fascinating to go out there and get a ride up. They didn't let us go all the way up to the top. They took us up part of the way, like to the base of it, and they said you have to have other clearance to go up there. But I was just as glad because I don't know if I would want to go to the top and walk across the gantry or do anything. I mean, that was really, you say you're a third of the way up and you go, oh, that's far enough. I'm done. I'm okay. Because you can imagine the elevator is a rattly, cagey thing, but yeah, the guy said, because I was working at the Cape and the guy said, well, we're really not supposed to do this, but nobody's around. It was fun.
Hey, you got to work on your clearance bill. You'll need it, to
What's
look
that?
at one of the launch vehicles down there. But I just looked up the location of the Slater's 50/50 in Hawaii, and it's the Lanai at Maumalma Bay with a note: guests must have Joint Base Pearl Harbor access to
Really?
get to it. Yeah, so it's on base apparently.
Oh, well, Carol, we're gonna have to have Bill Troop take us back there.
Did you say Lanai?
Yeah, it's well, the Lanai just means like a patio or something, right? This says the
Oh,
Lanai.
I thought you meant the island of Lanai.
No, it's on Honolulu, or it's
Okay.
on Oahu.
Carol and I
Honolulu.
went to,
We were on the base with Bill's friend Bill.
yeah, my roommate from college was a colonel in the army, and he was stationed over there for a while, and we went over to visit him, and it was really great because we went on to Ford's Island and walked, right where all the attacks took place and everything, and then everybody goes and sees the what you call it, the Arizona. Well, we went over to the other side of the island, took a look at the Oklahoma, and it was just a really, really neat thing. But now that knowing that Slater's there, maybe I'll have to convince Bill to go to Hawaii. No, it's probably just to go to Valencia. What the hell? Baron, you had your hand up?
Yeah, just real quick, Bill. I wondered if you were ever welcome back to the Jordan Pavilion.
The Jordan Pavilion?
Yeah, were you ever welcome back to it?
Nothing in particular. Was there some reason they wouldn't want me there?
Well, your comment about the tablecloth.
Oh, no, that's the joke you put online. Okay, yeah, I'm trying to figure out what he was doing. I posted a picture of 3 of the soldiers from the Jordan Pavilion sitting there and said, supply your own caption. Because
Okay.
just sitting out on the patio, they're just relaxing and everything. And I forgot Barron put up thing about saying that it looks like they're wearing Mrs. Cotter's tablecloths on their head. So he had me wondering. I said, did I make some politically incorrect statement in one of these talks? So yeah, you got me going. I'll give you 2 points for that. So
Oh, when I went to Expo 2020, I saw lots of Mrs. Cotter's tablecloths.
oh, I bet,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it was actually fascinating because, each, I guess you'd call it tribe, had a specific pattern or whatever, for that headdress.
Well, if you want to wear something around your head and you don't want to wear that, Heritage Auctions is auctioning off Jimi Hendrix headband that he wore at a whole bunch of famous concerts. So they said it would probably go for $40,000 to $50,000, but you can do that. So
I figured you were probably like eight or 10, maybe 10 or 12 at that time. 64. How old were you in 60?
I was 12.
Yeah, I figured that'd be like a comment you'd make at 12 years old, But I just thought I'd have a little fun at your expense.
Oh, he did. Everybody had fun at the expense. I'm sorry, the dog is very mad that Carol went out the front door to get the mail. So no, I was 12. I just did an event yesterday for a mice chat at Disney organization. And they had a thing about the 64 World's Fair, and I was one of the speakers at it. And they asked me, how old I went. I said I was at a great age. I was 12 years old, very impressionable, and I was just old enough that my folks would say, if we're not going to go to the fair anymore because it's too expensive to take 5 boys, and my father was tired of the crowds. But if you want to go, so as long as you pay for it, you can go. And so, okay, I'll go get a paper route and I'll do this and do that. So the fair came along at just the perfect time in my life. And, I'm so lucky. I mean, if I had been 17, I probably would have been more jaded and, wanted to go chase girls at the beach or something. But at age 12, it worked out real well.
That's what I was anxious to ask you about, is how'd the presentation go and anything you want to share?
Yeah, it was interesting. Basically it was a great crowd. Really, really enjoyed it. The trouble was there were several presenters, and when we had done a run through, one guy had done a presentation about that long, and we had that much space. So he was told, you need to take out this, you can't put in this, you can't, got to get it down to a certain point in time. Because I was going to do the introduction section, he was going to do another piece, and then Bob Gurr was going to do something. Well, this is no joke. We're standing there and they're starting to introduce things. He went to the moderator and said, "Oh, I found some more stuff and I put it in. I think you'll love it."
Is this Chris Crump?
No, Chris was great. He showed the model of the fair and talked about his dad, and had a nice talk with him afterwards and everything. The other guy had some fascinating, absolutely wonderful stuff. I mean, some really, like I think I know a lot about the World's Fair, but he had some really great concept art of this and that. I mean, it was a wonderful presentation. The only trouble was it was that much, and we had that much amount of time. So the whole thing was that you're going to do a talk, and then Bob Gurr was going to share his reminiscing, and then we were going to do a Q&A. Well, at the end, because we had to be out of the room by a certain time, the event organizers behind the thing going, like move it. And the guy would look at his watch and he'd just keep going. So and poor Bob was very patient. He sat there and waited. And then he came up with some anecdotes. And then the guy is like, because he's going to get charged a fortune if this thing goes into the next hour. So it's like, okay, hope you had a good time, come, go, and there was no time for Q&A. And like I said, I love the guy's presentation. He did a really, really, really good job of it. But like when we first did a run through, he was going to show a 9-minute movie of that Ford did about their pavilion. And we said, we can't do that. First of all, 9 minutes is going to bore the tears out of anybody. And I actually looked across the room. There was somebody asleep at one point. But I said, they can see this movie on YouTube. We got to give them something unique. So take this out. And like I said, literally, as we walked in, he said, I found some more videos. I put them in. I think you're going to love it. And it's like, we don't need to see Primeval World at the Disneyland, you know, because we can go across the street and see that. That was my only, I mean, I loved, I met some people that I've only known through Facebook. I met some others, again, I hadn't seen in a long time, that sort of thing. And it was a great event. If Mice Chat does anything and you know, they do things periodically, they did it really well. It was, I mean, a nice venue, great, yeah, they did a great job. And I love the guy's presentation. My only complaint was we didn't get to do any Q&A. And Bob Gurr has, because I was talking to him after, and said, "Oh, you didn't get to go and tell that one story." He goes, "I know, you know, it was a fun event. It was just, like I said, I was sitting there on stage looking at my watch, going, oh, you know? So
How much time did they give you for the whole event?
it was supposed to be an hour and a half from basically come in at 7:30 and be done at 9. And then do, sign books or whatever, do whatever. But an hour and a half of presentation. The basic thing is they're all at Disneyland for today. That's something they call Gumball Rally. Anybody remember the movie Gumball Rally?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, Michael Cera's in, and everybody races across the United States. Well, the Gumball Rally they've been doing at Disneyland for a number of years is who can ride the most rides at Disneyland in a day. So people applied out their whole strategy. Do you go first for all the Fantasyland rides and get 5 rides in, or do you try to first go over to do Rise of the Resistance before the line? And at the end of the day, you get a trophy. And it was a really neat trophy they made with a World's Fair theme on it to win this Gumball. So that's the big event. They're all out there running around like maniacs today, but they had this event last night just as a add-on extra sort of thing. And I thought it was pretty reasonable. I think they only charged like $25 the admission for it. And like I said, I enjoyed it. I had talked with a kid that wanted to be an Imagineer, and he actually had to have Carol sign his book too because she was an Imagineer. So and then like I said, I had brought copies of all my World's Fair books, and I was surprised how many people wanted the Spokane book because it's coming up for the 50th anniversary. And oh, I went to that with my parents. So it was fun. I enjoyed the event immensely. I just wish we had more time for audience, interaction. It was like, there's talk, have a good time, go home. So that was too bad.
Yeah.
But the worst part was the 2.5 hour drive down there. I mean, that was yeah, that was no fun. But the event itself was nice. I had a good time. Yeah. And like I said, the guy that ran over, he had some really, really fascinating stuff, and he really knows his stuff. I mean, what he showed, I absolutely ate up with a spoon. I mean, I really loved it. It was just take some of the videos and leave more time for Q&A, that sort of thing. So like I did my talk of Disney and the World's Fairs, which I normally do, a full hour-long talk. And I did it in 10 minutes, because again, all the videos, gone. 5 pictures of this, 1, that sort of thing. Because people, and by the way, as a plug, I think it's in April. If you're in the Anaheim area, I'm going to be speaking at the Disney Alumni Club, and I'll be giving the full presentation, not the Reader's Digest version of it. So I'm looking forward to doing that. And but it was a fun event. I had a great time. I came home with a big smile on my face. One funny thing, you might get a kick out of this. I had the books all on the table, and somebody says, "I'll take each of these." And oh, great. And I open up the book, and it's the second book of the 64 World's Fair. And I open it up, and your brain just registers something's wrong. I wrote the 3 books on the 64 World's Fair with Bill Young. So all the title pages say Bill Cotter and Bill Young. So I open up the book and I go to sign it, and it just says Bill Cotter. And I'm thinking, why did they take Bill Young's name off this, right? And I look, and they printed copies of one of my 1939 books, which I wrote all by myself, but they put the 1964 cover on it. So yeah, so I go through the stack, and I brought a dozen copies with me, and I go through the first 3 I have all have the 64 cover and the 39 inside on it. So and luckily, so that there's some of the ones that are right. I got to go upstairs and see how many wrong ones I have. And I try to tell people I have a real rare collector's item.
A misprint.
Yeah, but my first thought was, I mean, I'm looking at it and it just registered, where's Bill Young's name? And then I look up above 1939 and I was thinking, what were the odds? It'd be bad enough I opened up and it was a 64 World's Fair and it was some other book about Arlington, Virginia or something. But the fact that they put my 39 book inside a 64 cover, I got a real kick out of that. So that was just, like I said, you're trying to do things, sign things, and like I said, I'm just glad I caught it before the poor person got home and found the wrong thing. So, but next week, no talk next week. I will be up at dawn 30. I have to be in uniform and down at the station and ready to go at 7 o'clock. We have a Girl Scout event, and we're providing the security and crowd control and traffic and everything. So I don't know how many people are going to be out in the streets when the parade or whatever begins at 8 o'clock, but we'll be out there trying to keep them safe and doing that. So yesterday I had a very, very busy day with the LAPD, ran home, changed clothes, jumped in the car, and next week they were telling me, well, we think we can have you done by 9:30. You could probably make your 10 o'clock. And I said, no, these things never go on time. So I will take next week off. In 2 weeks we'll be back. I got a whole bunch of movies that I'm working on. Obviously today I did not get to the publicity photos from the 33 Chicago Fair because I just finished scanning all these things very, very late on Thursday night, and early this morning I had to rotate them all on the proper angle because the scanner's at one angle, they turn in 90 degrees. So we'll get to Chicago. It gives us something to look forward to. So anybody else doing anything fun this week?
Yeah, we're doing this. This is fun.
Glad you enjoy it. And Eric, by the way, I've been enjoying all the pictures you were taking at the park, and it looks like you had a good fun week.
Yeah, it was a continuation of our celebration of our 25th anniversary. So we did Hawaii. My wife's quite the trip planner, so we did Hawaii and Vegas and Disneyland this month. So we've been unfortunately I haven't been able to join these calls, but that's my excuse.
Oh, I've been enjoying the pictures, and while Robert Moses wasn't smiling much, you certainly were. You looked like you were having a great time.
I need to put on a bow tie as well.
I love your sweatshirt, the original Disney World logo.
Oh yeah, they came out with this whole vintage line for the Magic Kingdom's 50th anniversary last year, and I don't, it's funny because with COVID and everything, it's like I have all these new clothes, but I never wear them because I haven't gone outside a lot, and so I'm starting to wear a lot of the stuff that I bought during that time period. But yeah, so that's what this is from. It's not authentic. It's just
I love
they even
it.
aged it. It looks like it's been rubbed around like an engine because it looks like it's got grease stains all over it just to give it that vintage look. That I don't know if you're gonna go to the Magic Kingdom back in the 70s, you're gonna have this grease stained sweatshirt, but sure, why not? It looks vintage.
Well, it's funny. Last night, again, going to this thing, I met some people that I've only seen, like Facebook, or Zoom. You'd walk up to somebody, okay, now I recognize you. But Roger, who gave the talk about the Disney Family Museum in Marceline, was there. But we weren't talking about that. He had just bought a drone, and he and I on Facebook have been comparing drone notes. He goes, I'm always so afraid of flying. As I know, as I was flying mine the other day. And he was commenting that the drone company has a really great insurance package that if it crashes or anything, they replace it. But it's called the flyaway insurance. And he says, the fact that the thing could fly away from me, I'm really scared about it. I go, yeah, but you've got insurance, and if it flies away, you get another one. He goes, yeah, that's a good point. But all these other.
I saw that. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say I saw that event come up a couple of weeks ago. I'm like, oh, it was my chance to actually see Bill in person, but with all the traveling, and then it'd be like we were just down at Disneyland last weekend, and we live up in the San Francisco Bay Area. For us to go back down would have been a little bit of trouble, but it would have been great to see you.
As my kids will tell you, it's not worth it. So.
Oh no! Oh no!
No, it's funny at the talks, you try to set the mood for things and everything. And one of the things I generally say is, okay, how many people actually went to the 64 fair? and people at the end, so go, okay, I always like to gauge how many people went, so I know how much I'm allowed to lie. But one of the things I've done a number of times is, and we did this at the Disney Golden Ears Club, the entire Golden Horseshoe is full of people. And I said, okay, before it began, I took out my camera, took pictures of the audience and said, I have to send these to my kids to prove that there are people who actually listen to me. So,
Hilarious.
yeah. No,
That's
I always
great.
think you try to get the audience, involved and engaged. Like I said, when I looked out, Carol was sitting there and she was watching the presentation. The guy next to her was sound asleep, but not for my part.
Yeah. I don't know Bob Gurr by any means, but I did see him at Disneyland and say hello to him in person.
Yeah.
But man, he was jumping along to the Mickey and Minnie were coming down with the Disneyland parade just during their 12 o'clock little thing they always do every day, or at least on the weekends. And he was there dancing on the side like he was 12 years old, really enjoying it. Just I know he's in his 90s.
95, I think. Carol was commenting how she wants his jeans. When he was going up on the stage, it was very dark, and the host came out to give him a hand up the stage. He was like, I don't need that. And he stood there and down and just jumped up onto the next stage. And, everybody got a big applause. I mean, yeah, the guy is in incredible shape. Man, I hate him.
Feisty. Yeah. I know. Every time I bend over these days, I'm like always grunting or making a noise. And then you catch yourself making that groan or whatever. Like, oh. I don't know.
He's really doing well, and he's really sharp as a tack. It was funny. I went up to him and we were talking after, and I happened to mention, did you ever work with C.V. Wood, who was the guy behind Freedom Land? And he was, oh yeah, and he had a great C.V. story and was going through. I mean, he can go right back to a certain date and time and tell you what he had for lunch that day, and
that's great.
He's done so much amazing stuff. I mean,
I know. That's why I love attending these talks and hearing all y'all. And I just wish my memory is as good as, half of what Bob's has.
Yeah.
To retain all this.
What's really good too is I've worked with Bob on a number of things, and the story he'll tell 10 years ago is still the same one today. So you go with other people, like I interviewed people for my book on Disney television, and somebody would tell me this, and that, and everybody would say that never happened. But this guy's now, it's in his book, so in his mind it happened. Bob just seems to get it all. So he was nice, wasn't he, Carol?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're muted. Yeah. Still muted.
Nope.
I wish I could
press down the space bar.
I wish I could be.
I know. It's my fault. I was looking at something else on the computer. He was amazing. I mean, and he had a great sense of humor. And I mean, I don't know what it would be like to spend a couple hours with him if he fades or what, but he's something else.
He did talk about
high energy.
Yeah, he did talk about the Pinkertons at the fair, and he hated them because he said stuff would get delivered, and the next day, where is it? Never came, this sort of thing. Well, it's signed for. I don't know where it was. The truck would show up. Pinkertons would say, "Well, watch it," and then they would back their own truck up, and they would take it. So they started realizing they had to time their deliveries a certain time of day, or order 3 times what they needed, because Pinkertons would take 2/3 of it. So he did kind words about the Pinkerton guards at the fair. So, but yeah, we luckily we were having a nice chat at the end of it, as people were getting out and stuff. So yeah, he's always great to catch up to, and you can always tell him in the crowd he's got these bright red shoes on. So
yep, those red sneakers.
Yeah. So,
exactly what he had on. Yep.
Yeah. No, it's great guy.
Hey, Bill, I wanted to make one other comment, and that is to Dawn. I've enjoyed watching the moon go through its phases behind you all this talk.
Oh, thanks. I just loaded that up. That was one of our highlights of our Vegas trip a couple weeks ago. Thanks.
Oh, that's
Well, I did want to say I noticed it.
Oh, thank you.
Super.
I really enjoyed that.
Well, we'll see you in 2 weeks, and I hope everybody will. That's assuming, of course, that we're not washed down to Randy's neighborhood in the rain coming tomorrow. So, it's interesting. The news, of course, it's gloom, it's doom. The sky's gonna, the world's gonna end, and we got some rain. That wasn't too bad. And then we saw what Randy had down in Long Beach and said, "Holy crap!" So, well, luckily we live we live across the street from a small stream, which has overflowed. Last year, the water was going over the bridges in the stream. A couple of times it's actually lifted up and carried the bridges away. It's one year it got about 30 feet off the banks of the stream, but luckily we're about 60 feet or something, and we're also up higher. So if the rain ever got to our house, everybody down in the valley would be underwater. So, but I have to go and put some tape around one of our garage doors. Our problem is the wind. When it comes in, it's very, very windy. It will come up under the garage and get all the treasure troves inside wet. Weather preventing. So we'll see folks in 2 weeks, and look forward to seeing some of you online and living vicariously as you go various places. Have
Yeah,
fun.
have a good time at the Girl Scout.
Thank you,
Thank you very
Bye-bye,
much, Bill.
Bill.
See you in 2 weeks. Thank you, Bill.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.